Hi guys. So we're going to keep talking about animals as we go through our next unit in science. And the next thing that we have to talk about is inherited traits versus learned behaviors. And we've talked about inherited traits. Sorry, my headphones are falling out. Before, especially I remember talking about it a little bit as we've gone over science homework a couple of times. Inherited means it's something that you get from your parents that you have no control over. So, for instance, my mom and dad both have brown hair. But then I have brown hair. My sister has brown hair. My brother has brown hair. I have brown hair and my husband has brown hair. So our son has brown hair. So stuff like that, stuff that you have no control over. And it mostly goes with the way that you look. Your eye color, your hair color, your skin color, things that you did not choose about yourself. Those are traits that you inherit from your parents. So if both of your parents have blonde hair, it's very likely that you're also going to have blonde hair. If both of your parents have black hair, then it's very likely that you too have black hair because those are the traits that your parents are passing down to you. So in my science notebook, I have a heading. And my heading, says inherited traits versus, which is that little VS, learned behaviors. So it's important for us to realize what we get from our parents because everyone and everything, whether it's animals or people or whatever, is made up of two things. It's either traits that we inherited from our parents or their behaviors that we've picked up along the way, which means we've learned to do them along the way. So I have a list of 10 things and I want to go through them. But as we go through them, I want you to try to mentally decide, do you think it's an inherited trait? Do you think it's something that parents would pass down to children? Or do you think it's a learned behavior, something that a child or a person or an animal could learn to do over time? And most of mine go with people, so we'll stick with the thought of people. So as we go through it, if it's an inherited trait, which means it's something that you could get from your parents passing it down to you, then I'm going to put an I next to it. And if it's a learned behavior, then I'll put an L next to it. So here's my list. Whether this says brown, black, red, blonde, whatever, your hair color, you guys, I want you to decide, do you think that's something that's passed down or do you think that's something that you can learn or change over time? But that's the perfect example of an inherited trait. I can't change my natural hair color. I can dye my hair whatever color I want to, whether I want to make it purple or green or whatever. I'm not saying I'm going to do that. I'm saying I could if I wanted to. But even if I dye my hair purple, it won't change the fact that my natural hair color is brown. Okay? So your hair color is something that you inherit from your parents. Number 2 says video games. Whether it means you like video games or you're good at playing video games. But let's say, for instance, your dad likes playing video games too. So dad likes video games, you like video games, your older brother or a cousin or whoever, they also like playing video games. Just because you guys have that in common doesn't mean that you're inheriting that from your parents. So even if dad's really good at playing, I don't even know a game, like GTA, let's say, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're also going to be good at that. It means that that might be something that you guys have as a bond that you share in common. But it's being good at video games is something that you would learn to do over time. So let's say, like I know a lot of you guys, you say you play Fortnite. So if you started playing Fortnite maybe 2 years ago, you're probably better now at playing the game than you were 2 years ago because as you play it, you learn more things about the game. So if you've been playing that game for a while, now you probably know like more cheat codes or what to do if you go into a certain situation or just more information about the game. But that means you're picking up more information about that thing over time. So that's a learned behavior. So I guess the big thing here would be like you have control over how well you do playing video games because you can control how often you get on to play the video game, or how much time you dedicate to learning about that certain thing. If it's not something that you're born with, then it's a learned behavior. And no one's born with the ability to be good at playing video games. It's if you like that thing, then you work at it and you practice and you build up your skill over time. But the same thing here, because number 3 is sports. So whether that means being good at playing sports or liking sports, it's the same thing like the video games. Even if your dad loves football and you love football and mom's into football and whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a trait that you inherited from your parents. So let's say your dad played football and he was really, really good. And your brother played football and he was good. And you played football and you're good. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's an inherited trait. Like your dad could have been super athletic. Your brother could be athletic. You could be better at sports. You could be athletic. But it's the fact that dad cared enough about football to practice with you and let you play football. So you have to think about it. You weren't born with the ability to do it. It's something that you practice and have practiced over time. So if you started playing football or soccer or baseball or basketball, whatever your sport is that you like, when you were like 4 or 5, well, now you guys are 10 and 11. So you're probably, hopefully, better now than you were when you started at 10 or 11. Because as you've practiced over time, you should be honing in on that skill. You're practicing that skill so you can get better as you get older, okay? So the next thing then on our list, so we've had hair color is inherited. Being good at certain things, that's a learned behavior. How tall or how short you are, that's an inherited trait. So if both of your parents are tall, it's very likely that you also will be tall. If both of your parents are short, then you probably will be short. So if you, let's say your dad's really, really tall and your mom's kind of short, then you're going to take after one of your parents, which means you may grow very tall like your dad, or you may like stop growing around like 17 or so, and that could be as tall as you ever get. So you're maybe a little bit shorter like your mom. But those are called genes, and it's not the genes that you would wear. It's genes spelled Genes. But those are the genes, this type of genes, is what gets passed down from your parents to you. So it's what makes you who you are. So how tall or how short you are, it follows after a pattern of your parents. Like my husband is not very tall. I'm clearly not very tall. It's very likely that our son's not going to be some huge giant. Okay, he's probably going to be pretty short like us. But if you have a parent, like your dad is super, super tall and your mom's not very tall, then you're going to take after one of your parents. So you're either going to be taller like your dad or you're going to be shorter like your mom. But that's something that you inherit from your parents. Number 5 on our list says eye color or eye shape. But both of those things, they're inherited. You have no control over whether you have big round eyes or like smaller, like almond shape or oval shape. If you have brown eyes or blue eyes or green eyes, it is what it is. Like my eyes are super, super dark. A lot of the times you can't really see the pupil, like the black circle in the middle of my eye, because my eye color is that dark. But I can't change that. Like my eyes are what they are. I can't wish for blue eyes or green eyes. I mean, they're not going to change. It is what it is. It's also if your parents both have brown eyes, then it's likely that you also have brown eyes. You know, my mom and my dad both have brown eyes, and I have brown eyes. My sister has brown eyes. My brother has brown eyes. And we don't all have the same shade of brown. Like my eyes are a lot darker than my brother and sister, but they're still brown. Okay, it's just what you get from your parents. It's inherited, means you have no control over it. So your eye color, your eye shape, your hair color, your skin color even, you know, if both your parents have lighter color skin, then you're going to have lighter color skin. That's just what it is. It's what they pass down to you. So we have 5 more things on our list here. Number 6 says country music. But I mean, it could say rap music, pop music, gospel music, whatever it is. This is something that it's a learned behavior. So let's say that you love country music. Well, if you love country music, it's because at some point you've heard country music and it's just something that stuck with you. But if you're thinking, I hate country music, that's fine. It might be that your parents never play country music at your house, or it's what you're around. It's a learned thing that you associate with what's around you. So let's say like mom and dad love country music. They play country music in the car. It's very likely that you also will like country music because it's what you're around. So if your mom and dad, they both like, I don't know, like rap music, okay? And they play that when you guys are all in the car together, then it's very likely that you also like that type of music because that's the type of music that you're used to listening to. But let's say right now you hate country music. Well, in a couple years, you could hear a song that's a country music song that you like. So then that you start listening to more country music. It's something that you can change or grow or evolve over time. It's a learned behavior. So if you do not listen to rap music at all right now, you hate rap music, well, you might hear a song in a couple years that's classified as rap music that you actually like. So then you might start listening to more types of that music and then you start to like that music. Okay, it's just what you're around. It's what you like right now. That's a learned behavior. The type of hair that you have, whether you have straight hair or curly hair, that is inherited from your parents. So if you have super curly hair, yes, you can use a hair straightener and straighten it, or you can blow dry it straight or do whatever, but it doesn't change the fact that your natural hair is curly. Or if you know you have really straight hair and mom's tried a curling iron on it, or your sister tried to do something to it, that's fine. You can curl it for a day or two, but it doesn't change the fact that naturally your hair is straight. So number 8 then on our list says being a good cook. Being a good cook, believe it or not, it's a learned behavior. I am horrible at cooking. I won't say horrible, I'm not that bad. I'm not that good, okay? But if I practiced, if I cooked more often, then I would get better at cooking. So let's say mom and grandma, amazing cooks, okay? You love everything that they make. It's because they've been practicing. So if they make dinner every night, then they get better over time. So if mom has you help her make dinner because she wants you to be a good cook too, you're going to learn as you go along. So that means if you started helping mom make dinner when you were like 5 or 6 and now you're 10 or 11, hopefully you know a little bit more now than you do when you originally started cooking dinner with your mom. So it's as you go along, if you're getting better at something, if you're picking up more skills, that's a learned behavior. It's not something that you were given from your parents. It wasn't passed down to you. Number 9 and number 10, there we go, on our list say if you can ride a bike or if you're messy. But believe it or not, both of those things, they're learned behaviors. They are. If you can ride a bike, at one point, you couldn't. You weren't born with the ability to ride a bike. There's no babies riding bikes out there. It's something that you learn to do over time because you want to and you practice. If you're messy, okay, mom's not forcing you to clean your room, that's why. Because if mom made you clean your room every day, then your room wouldn't be messy. But being messy or being clean, it's a preference. That's all it is. If you are like, I don't care if my bed's not made. I don't care if there's a bunch of clothes on the floor. That's your preference. But your mom probably cares. So mom probably yells at you to pick up your room or make your bed or put your clothes away or put your dirty clothes in the hamper because mom doesn't like things to be messy. But that's a learned behavior. It's what your mom prefers, what she's comfortable with versus what you are comfortable with. Okay, so I guess the big takeaway here for this part is that if it's not something that's passed down to you, you're not born with it. Like, we're born with a certain eye color. We're born with a certain hair color, a certain skin color, a certain shape of our eyes, or how big our nose is, whatever it is about you, those are things that are passed down from your parents. So the stuff that you just have no control over. Anything else is a learned behavior. You learn to do it over time, or you get better at it over time. So I think I'm going to take maybe like 3 or 4 sentences here of notes, and then we'll stop for now. So let's say if you haven't been writing, if you can get me your science notebook, if you can get me a piece of paper, if you've been with me, you should be fine. So I'm going to turn this around then. So here's our heading, inherited traits and learned behaviors. It might be easier, let's see, I'm going to make a little arrow away from inherited traits and say it's what you get from your parents. Okay? Inherited traits literally is just what you get from your parents. It's your genes. These types of genes. Okay? Hair color, eye color, skin color, that's what that means. Learned behaviors then would literally be everything else. Okay? So I have heard, I think, I can't remember if it was last year or this year, but it might have been last year. There was a group of kids that they all had the same 3rd grade teacher. I think her name was Miss Force. She was at our school for a little bit. And I guess she ordered them pizza one time, and she ordered them like a Hawaiian pizza, which is like ham and pineapple. And then everyone was like, oh, I love pineapple pizza because Miss Force got me pineapple pizza in 3rd grade. And so I would say, well, did you ever like pineapple pizza before? Oh, no, it's gross. And then the kids that didn't have Miss Force would be like, pineapple pizza, oh, sounds disgusting. Well, it's because they'd never tried it. It's something that they weren't used to. So it's either something that you get passed down from your parents, or it's a learned behavior. It's everything else. So hair color, eye color, skin color, those are things that you have no control over. Those come from your parents. Everything else in your life is a learned behavior. So let's do this. I think I want to write 3 or 4 sentences underneath here. Let's say, well, I'm going to give myself a bullet point. I'm going to write down humans and animals are a mix of inherited traits and learned behaviors. Okay, humans and animals are a mix of inherited traits and learned behaviors. But remember, if it's inherited, it comes from your parents. So let's say you have a dog. Okay, we'll stop talking about people. Let's say you have a dog, you have a pit bull. Well, it's going to have the same fur, okay, like the same coat that its parents had. So if, like, I know there's like 2 different types of pit bulls, like a red nose or a blue nose. I think that's what they're called. Like, let's say both of your dog's parents were blue nose pits, then your dog is going to be the same type of dog. If your dog's parents were both little chihuahuas, then your dog is also a little chihuahua. If both of the dog's parents are labs, then the dog is also going to be a lab. It's the stuff that they have no control over, what color their coat is, how much they end up weighing when they're full-grown adults, okay? That type of thing is what they would inherit from the dog parents. But then everything else in your dog's life is learned from your household, whether or not they can beg at the table. Okay, whether or not the food is left down all day or they only have a certain amount of time to eat it. Whether you have to fence them in your backyard or they can just be in your backyard and they don't ever run away. Those are things that they learn over time because of the household that you and your parents provide to your pet. So inherited traits can go to animals too. It's what they get from their parents, what they don't have any control over. So if you have a dog, it would be they don't have control over what type of dog they are. So if they're a little Chihuahua, they're always going to be a little Chihuahua. They're not going to change their breed one day. The color of their fur. If their fur is like soft or if it's more like wiry and bristly, they don't have any control over that. How big they eventually get, how much they weigh, stuff like that they just don't have control over. Those are things that they inherit from the dog parents, and then everything else in the dog's life is a learned behavior. So as hard as that is to maybe understand, this actually is this is like a big thing here, that humans and animals are a mix of inherited traits and learned behaviors. I think I'm going to add something right underneath here. So I'm just going to put like a little dash, and I'm going to put, let's do it. Let's say a physical characteristic that is passed down from a parent to an offspring, which is a baby. So passed down from a parent to an offspring. And offspring is just a big fancy word for baby, so I'm going to put that in parentheses. Okay? Is an inherited trait. I'm actually going to use a different color highlighter. I'm actually going to highlight this whole sentence. And I know it's a lot, so if you need to pause me and copy it down, that's fine. All right, we'll wait here. A physical characteristic that's passed down from a parent to an offspring, from a parent to a baby, whether it's a human baby or a baby puppy or a cat, whatever. If it's a physical characteristic, the way that they look, okay, that's an inherited trait. So we're going to put some examples here. And remember, if I'm writing too fast and you need to pause me, then pause me. So your skin color, guys, that's something you have no control over. That's an inherited trait. Your hair color. Your eye color. Okay, your eye shape. Your height, how tall or how short you are. Whether you have curly or straight hair. Those would all describe the way that you look. But if those all describe the way that you look, then that's what physical characteristics mean. So if I asked you to describe me using physical characteristics, you guys could say brown hair, brown eyes, short. Like those would be ways to describe what I look like, okay? But those are also the things that I have no control over. So I guess the big takeaway here is just this pink highlighted sentence. A physical characteristic that is passed down from a parent to an offspring or a baby is an inherited trait. So things that would be passed down from parents to babies could be skin color, hair color, eye shape, your height, whether or not you have curly hair. It could be whether or not you have freckles, okay? All the things that would describe your physical appearance, what you actually look like. I think that's where I want to stop it from here. And I think what I'm going to have you do after this is I'm going to have maybe like 5 or 6 either inherited traits or learned behaviors. And I want you to decide whether or not you think those things are inherited traits or learned behaviors based upon what you now know about inherited traits. So remember, inherited means it comes from your parents, you have no control over it.